Thank you, President. My question is for the Health Minister. Minister, will you guarantee Minister representing the Health Minister. Minister, will you guarantee the information collected through the state's now mandatory QR code app will never be used for any purpose other than contact tracing? The government's QR regime requires everyone to report their whereabouts to the government wherever they go. People worry their data will be leaked or be used against them by the government. They're right to worry. The state has a history of using mandatory reported information to spy on and prosecute the public. The contact tracing system should not be used as a state surveillance tool. The Police Association joined calls to protect Victorians from the use of this data for purposes other than contact tracing. The Association Secretary said that, given QR codes are introduced in the best interests of community health, are temporary and rely wholly on community compliance, the Association believes the data collected should be free of any intrusion whatsoever outside of its original purpose of contact tracing.
Symes.
Thank you, President, and thank Mr Quilty for his question, which is directed to the Minister for Health. It probably shouldn't be directed to the Minister for Health because he's not the Minister responsible for QR codes, but given I've got some information in relation to that issue, I'll just answer it as Leader of the Government. I think might be the best way through that because you won't get anything further back from the Minister for Health. But of course, QR data is obviously something that is very important at the moment as we respond to the health challenges in our state. It's only used in the event of outbreaks to help contact tracers to quickly identify exposure sites, which is important to running this virus into the ground. The data is encrypted, safe, and only kept for a period of 28 days by Service Victoria. And there have been no instances to date where QR code data has been disclosed to law enforcement. Mr Quilty, in relation to requests for disclosure, it has to be via a court order and at the discretion of a magistrate and occur through the Department of Health, who would be required to interpret that data. Under the Service Victoria Act and Privacy Act, Service Victoria could be required to hand over data under a court order. The terms to use explicitly state that personal information could be disclosed for law enforcement or to investigate unlawful activity. So very, very confined reasons that have not been used to date.
Quilty on a supplementary.
Thank you, Minister. So, Minister, when will mandatory check-ins be scrapped? Western Australia Police have accessed the data as part of 2 investigations. The Victorian Acting Police Minister has confirmed that Victorian Police can also access QR check-in data, as you just said now. Victorian Police have requested access to this data on 3 occasions. To the Government's credit, these occasions requests have been denied. We should not live in a surveillance state where citizens are forced to report their location to the authorities and then have that information used against them. Citizens are providing a good faith service to the state when they check in, and their trust should not be abused. As long as this mandatory check-in system exists, it's a threat to our privacy and a constant temptation for police. By the start of December, everyone who wants a vaccine should have had one. We need to return to the old normal with no government check-ins. We need to end the state of emergency, open the borders and scrap the QR codes. This cannot be a part of the government's new permanent COVID regime.
Thank you, President. As usual, Mr Quilty, lots of statements in your questions, so I'll leave some of that as a statement. But in relation to your question about the ongoing need for QR check-in at many venues across the state, we make no apologies for making this a requirement in Victoria for the benefit of public safety. Of course, this is a measure that has proved very valuable in being able to notify people that they've been at exposure sites and to take appropriate action as required. No data has been provided at requests of Victoria Police to date. As I have outlined, this is a very confined area. And I would also point to the Information Commissioner's comments in relation to the support of the Services Vic app. Requiring people to use one app is considered the best course of action for privacy concerns as opposed to multiple platforms, which has also informed the government's decision to go down that route.
Thank you, Minister. Ms Barth.